blood banyan tree. In front of the house of the rich man John, for the past few days, there have been shadows of people wandering back and forth. Since the French closed the granary, rice could only be obtained through the ration cards issued by the Indochina government. There were many deaths in the country, and corpses were piled up all over the city. The living were wandering around like dry corpses, like ghosts and spirits lurking in the night. These days food is scarce. Last year even those with money could hold their heads high and enjoy prosperity during the chaos. But this year, even if they had money, they could not buy rice, and gold coins were moldy in the house and could not be used. The rich and the wealthy were no different from the common people with bare feet and big eyes, sometimes even having to go abroad to beg for food like beggars. The reason why the rich man John's family can still survive until now is because of his relationship with the French governor. Red-skinned. The rich man John had a daughter named Tian Hung, famous for her beauty in the area, and attracted the attention of many young playboys in Hanoi. Thanks to that, the rich man John received many gifts and had wide relationships with the French and Japanese to receive rice and cotton. Speaking of which, some people were starving and lying around, some were digging for wild roots and gnawing on tree bark, and some were starving and waiting to die. Yet there were still people who had more than enough to eat and gave it to their cattle to eat, and used the leftover rice to make wine, or used the leftover rice to burn in boilers. The rich man John enjoyed a life of luxury in a time of extreme poverty, in contrast to the many difficult circumstances around him, and was also cruel and inhuman. Many days, there was a man who was hanging around the gate, holding out his hand to ask for a handful of rice, but the rich man was angry and ordered his servants to beat him to death with a stick just because he disturbed his afternoon nap. At that time, the most famous servant of the rich man John was the servant Lai. He was trusted by the rich man John to lead the gang of henchmen. Whenever a beggar came to bother him, he would chase and beat him. One day, the servant Lai saw a woman with a dirty face and a haggard complexion in front of the rich man's house. He intended to run out and curse her and chase her away. When he got there, he discovered that the emaciated woman he was about to chase was his poor childhood friend from Dao village. Feeling pity, he intended to axe the woman into the house to secretly feed her a meal. But suddenly in his mind, the words of the rich man John appeared, "In this day and age, if I don't want people to eat my bones and drink my blood, then even if they are my friends, I will kill them. If I pity her, I will die. Feeding her is no different than offering my own flesh and blood to entertain her. Living from hand to mouth, how can I do good to others? It only gives lazy people a chance to enjoy it. A worm will always be a worm and cannot survive in this world. If you have received blessings, then try to keep them. Don't let a moment of pity bring disaster upon yourself." That sentence had been a constant pain in his heart for a long time, because the rich man John was the one who had taken him in, the one who had opened his arms to welcome him from death in the time of misery. To the Mandarin Lai, the rich man John was no different from his parents, with the grace of regeneration, profound philosophy, and a mind higher than the intellectuals of the time. Whatever the rich man John said was always right, but if it was right, he should not go against it. If he went against it, it would be no different than hitting himself in the foot with a rock, digging out his own intestines and flesh for others to see, and putting his own fate in the basket for others to dissect. Thinking of that, he did not dare to continue helping the woman lying on the ground. Because after all, he was still worried about himself. How could he worry about his friend? The woman's eyes were hazy, and she was only breathing faintly. It seemed like she had seen him, but she couldn't speak. Her eyes were just staring blankly at him as if she wanted to ask for something that she had to do even if she was about to die. Holy did not think any further, knowing that the woman could not stand up. He ran into the house and found a stick made of very hard knotted wood. Then he approached the woman and said in a fierce voice, "I feel sorry for you, you were my friend in my humble days. Now I can't even take care of myself, let alone think about saving you. So the only way left is to give you the last favor of dying peacefully. That's also the way I've done you all the favors." After Holy finished speaking, he immediately brought the wooden stick down and hit the woman's head. The woman suddenly burst into tears, her hand unsteadily and tremblingly moved down to her stomach as if to say something. Her eyes were filled with tears, sparkling as if she was pleading. But Holy still gritted his teeth and hit the wooden stick down hard. The stick hit the woman's head, splitting her skull in two, her brains flying everywhere. The woman's hand rolled from her stomach to her face, her eyes wide open with tears and blood, her mouth gaping. The woman's cheeks were gaunt, her whole body like a writhing skeleton. The woman was dead, truly dead. That was also the fate of the poor in this society, who had to struggle to survive, had to bite tree bark, had to drink water to survive, sometimes even had to gnaw on human flesh to stave off hunger. The horror of the times pushed people into hell in their own lives. In the terrible torture of hunger and the image of a body covered with skin and bones, in the weakness and trembling that even the slightest wind could make a tree fall, tormented people's thoughts to the very end. After killing the woman, Holy did not even bother to give her a proper burial, but instead threw her out into the street for flies and dogs to gnaw at and crows to peck at. Nowadays, people are dying all over the streets, and even if people saw a dead body lying in front of the door of a rich man's house, no one would care. It must be said that they were not even sure whether they would have enough food to eat, so why worry about other people's business like that? But that was a discussion of human feelings in times of hardship, but in terms of friendship, Holy was truly cruel. If he could not help his friend for food, and had condescended to let him die peacefully, then why could he not bury him in a temporary grave? Leaving his body lying in the middle of the street, in the market, for dogs and crows to peck at like that. A person who did good deeds and was treated like that was no different from torture, even more cruel than a beast. Months passed quickly. In front of the rich man John's house, a small banyan tree suddenly sprouted. At first, the banyan tree was just a small sprout with 2 leaves, then it grew as tall as a child and then grew as big as the fence. Rich man John was surprised to see a banyan tree growing in front of his house. But he was also happy because from now on, in front of his house, there would be a cool shade tree, making his afternoon naps more comfortable, avoiding the harsh summer sun. He did not think twice about cutting down the banyan tree but let it grow. Over the course of several months, the banyan tree grew rapidly. People also found it strange that since the banyan tree appeared in front of the rich man John's house, countless refugees, for some reason, kept gathering together to starve to death in front of his house. The number of corpses increased, and around the rich man John's house, the stench of rotting corpses was so strong that it could be smelled even a kilometer away. The rich man John ordered people to clean up the corpses many times, and also had people guard the house, but the situation remained the same. What was strange was that the more people died, the faster the banyan tree grew. After only a year, it was already as big as a longan tree. This did not escape the eyes of the rich man John. And of course, he also realized the reason why such a situation happened. Even if he was stupid, he could guess that there was a connection between these 2 events. One was that people died in front of the gate, right next to the banyan tree, and 2, the more people died, the faster the banyan tree grew. So those things could very well be related to the spiritual mysteries that our people often rumored. Nowadays, people everywhere are superstitious, not to mention whether the westernization movement has really reached the common people or not. But just the fact that the rich man John's family has a tradition of being a local tycoon, and every year there is a lot of incense and funerals, it is enough to know that the rich man John believes in spiritual things. The rich man angrily ordered his men to cut down the banyan tree. At that moment, the strange thing was revealed, because no one could cut down the banyan tree. Those who tried hard broke their arms, those who tried lightly broke their axe handles, those who planned to use buffaloes and oxen to pull the tree down with ropes rolled over, foaming at the mouth, and died. Those strange things frightened the rich man even more. There were nights when he dreamed of a shadowy figure sitting on a banyan tree in front of his house, baring its white teeth, looking at the bed where he was lying, laughing horribly. Then one bright moonlit night, behind the leaves, the rich man John always had the feeling of a shadow of a person swaying back and forth. He ordered his servants to shout to chase them away, but no one was there. It was clearly a strange thing. The most recent incident that terrified him was when someone cut down a banyan tree to destroy it, only to see the trunk oozing bright red sap like blood. Superstitious people said that it was because the banyan tree had become a spirit, formed by the dead gathering there. People with a little bit of a superficial understanding of science judged that this banyan tree was a blood banyan, very rare in nature. And this was a real tree, not a ghostly phenomenon. The failure to destroy the banyan tree made the rich man so angry that he could not eat or sleep well, and he wanted to find every way and use every means to resolve it peacefully. Among the group of young masters in Hanoi who pursued Tian Hung, there was a student from the University of Indochina. His name was Khan, also the son of a high-ranking official in the provincial capital who worked for the French. This time he had the opportunity to visit the rich man John's family for a few days. Coincidentally, during the ghost month, people have a custom of offering food to hungry ghosts on the full moon day of the 7th lunar month. Khan was personally welcomed by the rich man John. During the conversation, the rich man John smiled and asked, "Mr. Khan is from Hanoi, he must be very modern and westernized. Is he familiar with this custom of offering sacrifices on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month?" Khan replied, "Sir, although I say I am a westernized student, I understand all Vietnamese customs very well. When it comes to this practice of offering food to wandering souls, I think it is just a bad custom, and that it is only for those who have excess wealth, who throw things away. But even so, it is still a luxury of the rich and powerful. If you do that, it is only to embellish the flowers to attract the attention of the higher-ups. I say this, I hope the rich man will not be angry." The rich man was angry when he heard Khan's metaphorical words that meant to insult him for being ignorant. Not only was he not angry, he even nodded and praised him. College students are different, they really have very deep thoughts. The rich man stopped for a moment, frowned and asked, "But if you don't believe that offering to the wandering souls will work, then you should at least believe that there are ghosts in this world. And that they will come back to take revenge when they have the chance." Khan shook his head, smiled faintly and said arrogantly, "Demons, in modern scientific thinking, that is no different from talking about the superstitious habits of the common people. You are a noble person, I advise you not to lower yourself like them. To believe in such baseless things is not like a noble person at all." The longer the conversation went on, the more angry the rich man felt that this young master Khan was an arrogant and self-righteous person who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, he was still not angry, but happily asked, "If you really don't believe in ghosts, then would you dare make a bet with me? A bet that shows that ghosts really exist in this world?" Khan nodded and replied, "What's there to not dare to do? I'm sure that in this bet, you will only lose. It's just that if you bet, the bet item must be big." The rich man's eyes suddenly lit up and he asked back, "What does it mean to be big? What do you want to be big for?" Khan replied enthusiastically, "You know very well what I want, I just want your daughter, Miss and Hung, to be my wife. If you agree, this bet will be very meaningful." The rich man John narrowed his eyes. For a long time, Tian Hung had always been a delicious bait that the young masters of Hanoi had been aiming for, and a target for competition. Khan's coming here to play for a few sessions was actually just to flirt with Tian Hung and to take his daughter as his wife, making others jealous because they had lost. Khan was a person who did not believe in ghosts. He thought, if he could deceive the rich man's daughter for something that did not exist, wouldn't it be both easy and profitable? If the rich man John had personally offered his daughter to him like that, why should he bother to think of another plan? Now that the rich man John had voluntarily brought up the bet, he would never let that opportunity slip by and snatch Tian Hung. He would make the young masters of Hanoi be dazzled by his talent. That he would only need to come back for a visit to beat a lot of people who had been spitting all year long without getting anything, and had given him all kinds of gifts, but he still snatched them away. Hearing Khan's conditions, the rich man John was not surprised but very pleased. The problem of the blood banyan tree growing in front of the rich man John's house had been a headache for him for a long time. Now, if he could easily solve this problem, he would definitely do it. Thinking back to the previous busy times, the rich man John tried every way but could not solve the problem. So he thought, maybe an educated person would solve the problem in a different way, and it would be more effective. In this era, people think an educated person is in the upper class, thinking higher than ahead. The way to solve the problem will naturally be different. In his heart, the rich man was actually angry, but he still pretended to be serious in order to negotiate successfully. He frowned continuously, looking troubled, as if he was very troubled. Khan looked at him and became even more impatient. His mood was burning like fire. He couldn't sit still. He was afraid that the rich man would suddenly change his mind and not dare to bet anymore. Then he continued to provoke. If you are afraid of losing in this matter, then just say so. I am not a person who beats around the bush, and I hate cowards who are afraid of losing but always find excuses to be strong. It's just a pity that this trip was not an enjoyable one. The rich man pretended to be angry and immediately replied. I'm not that kind of person. I'll show you how attractive this bet is. I'll agree, but if you lose, you have to give me a huge amount of money, or even help me get a position as a provincial councillor. Those are the conditions of my bet. Do you dare? Normally, people lose their minds when they are too angry. When Khan saw the rich man so angry, he immediately realized that he had unintentionally made a mistake due to a momentary feeling of guilt. Once something has been said, it cannot be taken back. And this was a heaven-sent opportunity for him, a delicious bait with a fat reward. Khan chuckled and slowly replied. Your condition is not difficult, just a position as a provincial councillor. My father can take care of it. But letting Miss and Hung become my wife, I am afraid you will go back on your word. So we have to make a contract. The rich man John leaned on his stick in the middle of the house, squinted his eyes and asked while answering. What kind of agreement is it? Why bother rewriting it? It's so tiring and time-consuming. Khan shook his head and said with a smile. No, Mr. John has always been famous for breaking his word. How could I go against that? Moreover, we educated people like to work on paper, not used to making empty promises. The rich man was angry and suddenly shouted. Where is Lai? Bring me some paper and pen. The rich man's voice echoed loudly, and Lai, who was downstairs, quickly ran upstairs to respond politely. Then, he ran into the rich man's room and took out a stack of ivory papers and a Western fountain pen. Khan took the stack of paper and pen, quickly wrote down a few words. Then he presented them to the rich man and asked. Here, look at this contract, is it correct? If you see anything wrong, let me fix it, then we both sign here, and that's it. The rich man nodded, his hand trembling slightly as he held the contract, brought it close to his face and continued to squint and look at it carefully. He pretended to be serious on the outside, but in reality, he couldn't help but want to sign it right away. However, he still tried to slow things down, to show Khan that he was thinking carefully, that Khan was the one who benefited, not him. The rich man John was an insider, and also someone who had tried to deal with the banyan tree many times without success. He was the one who understood the difficulty of the banyan tree the best. Usually, the easier it was for people to see the other side agree, the more suspicious they became. The rich man John was more intelligent than others, so he wanted to act well. If he wanted to trick this young lamb with an educated appearance into falling into the trap of a cunning old fox like him, he had to act really well. Again, if there really was a councillor position in the province, the rich man John would have the conditions to move to the province to live. At that time, the fate of the banyan tree would not affect him at all. This large area of land could be transferred to someone else and he could comfortably live with that councillor position. The rich man was angry for a long time before he could say a sentence. The terms of the bet are correct, but you still don't know what I'm betting on here. Khan Duong proudly replied. That doesn't matter, what matters is that the conditions are favorable to both sides. As for how you want me to prove that the devil doesn't exist, that's your business. In the end, I'll win anyway, and you'll just become my reluctant father-in-law. The rich man pretended to be angry and said. I'll tell you this is no joke, and I'll give you a brief account of what happened. But first, please write it down here. Khan nodded in response and asked. Okay, then tell me quickly. I'm really impatient. What could have made the rich and difficult man give up his daughter like that? Rich man John's personality is just like his name, his face is always frowning and angry. His face is pensive as he tells about the time when the banyan tree appeared and the situation of beggars flocking to die at the base of that banyan tree. After hearing this, Khan not only was not afraid but also laughed. This was not beyond the rich man John's guess, because he also guessed how arrogant Khan was. Of course he would not take this matter to heart. Khan wrote down all the bets in detail on the contract, then signed it quickly to finish. He brought the contract in front of the rich man and urged. Now it's your turn, please sign here. The rich man John did not wait a second longer and immediately signed. Khan took the contract, looked it over, then carefully placed it in a box and said. Now that the terms of the bet are in place, we will place the contract in this box and lock it. We will open it as a witness when the matter is settled. I will leave the box here for now, and I believe it will be safe. Having said that, Khan closed the box lid, pushed it aside, and continued to happily smile and ask. I really didn't expect that you would bet your daughter for such an absurd thing. Are you crazy about the position of counselor? Even though that position costs thousands of piastres, could you use such a trivial thing to trade your daughter for it? Hearing Khan's sarcasm, the rich man John now showed his cards and laughed heartily in response. You'll see, you've just thrown money out the window. Just wait, and you'll see how difficult this is. The angry rich man suddenly changed his attitude. Khan suddenly felt guilty. But now it was too late for him to regret, he had already signed the contract. And thinking back to the rich man's expression from the beginning until now, it seemed that he had not provoked him into falling into the trap, but he was the fish in the trap. That contract was proposed by him, not the angry rich man. He was the one who had put himself in the trap, not anyone else. The next day, Khan was arranged to sleep in a room on the west side, right next to the bloody banyan tree. The only person who often came and went with Khan, besides Miss and Hung, was only the servant Lai. Occasionally, Khan saw the servant Lai running in and out, making a loud noise. When he saw the servant Lai entering through the gate like that, he discovered that the servant Lai was soaked in blood, and that a white residue was stuck to his clothes. Khan did not know what those things were. Later, he found out that the servant Lai had run out with the servants in the house to beat to death the troublemakers. The blood on the servant Lai was the blood of the troublemakers, and the white residue stuck to his clothes was nothing else but the brains of the troublemakers. Khan sat there absent-mindedly imagining the scene of Li's servants beating someone to death, when suddenly a very polite voice came from outside. Hello, Mr. Khan. The sound from outside woke Khan up from his thoughts. He looked out the door in a daze and immediately realized that the person who had just spoken was Marquis Lai. Khan was about to reply when Marquis Lai immediately spoke to stop him. Yes, sir, the rich man told me to serve you from now on. If you need anything, just ask me, I will prepare everything for you. Khan looked at Lai from head to toe, finally nodded and said. Okay, let's wait and see about cutting down the tree. Anyway, I'm still playing here for a while, and this bet has to be done sooner or later. There's no need for the rich man to send someone to urge me like that. After he finished speaking, he stood up and walked back and forth for a while, then stared at Holy and asked. I heard the rich man say that the banyan tree he wanted me to cut down had many strange things. Holy was stunned for a moment, still not understanding what the strange question was, and only replied. Yes, sir, I don't know how strange it is, sir. But that banyan tree, besides attracting refugees to die, also sucks blood. Speaking of the last half, Holy suddenly stuttered and broke out in a sweat as if he had just remembered something terrifying. Holy sweated for a while, then continued speaking, this time looking straight into Khan's eyes and speaking seriously. I didn't mean to offend you. But the day before, there was also a servant named Khan who went out to kill civilians at midnight, following the rich man's orders. But that night he didn't come back. Early the next morning I discovered his withered corpse lying at the foot of the banyan tree. And Holy said that and continued to stutter. Khan urged impatiently. What else? Tell me quickly. Holy wiped the sweat from his forehead and replied. Yes, on the banyan tree there is a banyan fruit as big as a human head. It looks exactly like the face of the servant Khan. Its mouth is open like the dried corpse of the servant Khan. Holy paused for a moment and then continued to answer. After that meal, the rich man forced us to climb the banyan tree to cut down the fruit and bury it. Khan felt a little creepy at first, but then he burst out laughing. Chuyan was so angry that his face turned purple and he shouted. The rich man is too contemptuous. He clearly made up a story and sent you to threaten me in order to win the bet. He even dared to make up the servant's name as yours. He really has no shame. Cursing you to die like that servant, is that right? Holy was so frightened by Khan's scolding that he didn't dare say a word. After waiting for half a minute, he heard Khan speak. If the rich man is so impatient, then tonight I will cut down that tree at midnight, and see if he can still say some nonsense. Ghost? You guys are most afraid of ghosts at night, right? Then I will go cut down the tree at night for you to see. Khan finished speaking and chased Servant Lai out, closing the door tightly. He also told Servant Lai not to let anyone disturb him, and to wait until midnight when he gave permission before coming to talk. Holy told this story to the rich man John. After hearing this, the rich man John stroked his beard and nodded happily, saying, Well, if Khan is so hot-tempered, I will soon be a provincial councillor. You must keep a close eye on Khan. If he cannot cut down the tree, you must advise him in time. Otherwise, if he is harmed by that tree, then instead of good fortune, disaster will come to him. Holy did not understand and immediately asked, Sir, why are you asking about a life-threatening disaster? I thought you would be happy if Khan lost? The rich man opened his eyes wide and explained. What a stupid mind. Even if I tell you, you still don't understand. If Mr. Khan had the same problem as the servant a few days ago, would the authorities still let him go to the province to take up his post? The rich man angrily explained again. I have to make him lose convincingly. That way I can both get promoted and escape that evil banyan tree, avoiding making enemies with the provincial governor. Holy seemed to understand and immediately flattered. Yes, you think carefully, I understand. That night, at exactly the third watch of the night, Hao Lai heard Khan calling. Hao Lai stood in front of the door of Khan's room, where he was assigned a task. Tonight I will personally cut down the banyan tree for the rich man John. You and the servants in the house must be my witnesses, that I am the one who cut down the tree so that the rich man John cannot go back on his word. Holy obeyed without hesitation. Khan ordered him to bring saws, shovels, knives, hammers, and axes. He brought everything that could be used to cut down the tree so that he could personally do it. When Holy brought all of those things, Khan rolled up his sleeves high, swaggered out of the gate, walked in front of the banyan tree, and started. He pretended to be about to personally cut down the tree so that the rich man John would be stunned and regret his stupid betting joke. Standing behind Khan were the servant Lai and two other servants, their hands clasped in front of them, looking serious. Every now and then, the servant Lai would look up to see if Khan had finally taken action. But after a long time, he still saw Khan just standing there staring at the tree, not moving a muscle, so he asked. Yes, sir. Why haven't you cut down the tree yet? Holy asked this, and when he looked closely, he discovered that Mr. Khan was also shaking. Khan looked serious, secretly wiped his sweat, slowly turned back and asked Lai. Does the rich man John have a maid? Holy replied. Yes, except for the nanny who raised Miss and Hung since she was little, named Mao, there is no other woman in the house. But what is the matter, sir? Khan lowered his voice, leaned close to Holy's ear and whispered. So the person sitting on the banyan tree right now is Mrs. Mao, why don't you call her down here? Let her sit on the tree like that? If you cut the tree down and it breaks, it will be difficult for her to survive. Only when Holy heard this did he realize that something must have happened to Mr. Khan. It was the thing that the servants in the house had seen every night recently, and they all thought it was a ghost. Because Mrs. Mao was very old, her hands were weak and her eyes were dim, she couldn't climb trees anymore. Moreover, Mrs. Mao always slept with Miss and Hung. If she wasn't there, Miss and Hung would be the one who knew best. Khan knew he had seen a ghost, but he still couldn't believe his eyes. At this moment, he was still certain that it was Mrs. Mao, and that he was right in not believing in ghosts. He tried his best to urge Lai to call the figure sitting on the banyan tree down. Holy trembled like a leaf and took a few steps before turning back and kneeling before the man and begging. "Sir, that can't be Mrs. Mao. Mrs. Mao is with Miss and Hung right now. She's a ghost. If you love me, please don't make me go." Hearing that, Khan walked back and forth, trying his best to be brave. He stretched, took a deep breath, and changed his angry expression. "Okay, if you are so determined to not listen to me, then I will cut down that tree, and let her sit on it. Even if she falls and dies, don't complain." Having said that, he held the axe firmly in his hand and approached the banyan tree. His arm was raised high to the sky. Suddenly the night sky turned stormy, wind and rain raged, thunder and lightning roared. Khan's hand was raised above his shoulder when he heard a loud thunderclap overhead. In a split second, the light from the lightning flashed so brightly that the face of the woman sitting on the banyan tree was clearly visible. It was an old woman with a wrinkled face. Her lips were red as blood, her teeth were white as ivory. She made a dull sound as if something was gnawing at her stomach. Her eyes made gurgling sounds. Her pupils popped in and out as if something was pushing out from inside her skull. Khan shuddered in fear, almost dropping the axe in his hand. At this moment, Holy also looked up. His heart and soul were weak. His mouth stammered and he cried out, "Mrs. Mao, why?" Khan was so scared that he intended to run away, but suddenly he heard the servant Lai mention the name of the woman sitting on the tree. It turned out that it was really Mrs. Mao. So she was not a ghost or anything, but a human, a living person of flesh and blood. Hearing this, he was no longer scared, he stood still and observed the situation. Khan did not want his previous mistake due to fear to be known by the servants. So after knowing the full story, he was determined to cut down the tree to prove that his judgment was correct. And to make Lai, the rich man John and the people in the house all open their eyes. "You see, I told you there are no ghosts. You didn't listen to me and called her down, so she fell to her death, and you can't blame me." Khan swung his axe straight at the banyan tree. This banyan tree was very big but could not be compared to other ancient trees of the same species. It was only the size of a longan tree, so when Khan swung his axe, it shook. The old woman sitting on the tree suddenly burst into a shrill laugh as if she was delighted. She crawled down from the treetop to Khan. Khan was startled and once again almost dropped his axe. It was only that the previous words of Holy's warning made Khan dare to affirm that the woman was not a ghost but a human. So he carefully waited for her to crawl under the tree and then killed her immediately. The woman's entire body was shriveled, her skin wrinkled, just like dry wood. She also resembled the image of a witch in the deep forest that people used to talk about, truly terrifying. However, even if she was a demon, when she encountered an evil person, she would still have to bow down. Because when it comes to vengeful spirits and lonely ghosts, there has never been a generation that hasn't been created by evil people. If one were to say who was the most unafraid of divine punishment, it would probably be them. At this moment, evil thoughts arose in Khan's heart. He swung the axe high up, pretending to chop the tree, but in reality, he waited for the woman to crawl down so he could use the heavy axe to chop her to death. She crawled as fast as a mouse, and swung like a monkey. Her neck shrunk like a turtle's, her face bulged like a dumpling, her mouth drooled like a hungry tiger. Her hands were jumping and in no time she jumped from the top of the banyan tree to the base of the tree, rushing forward to strangle Khan. At that moment, he took the opportunity to shout loudly, "You old woman, die!" Just in time, the axe swung horizontally and chopped back towards the woman. The woman's head flew off right there, rolling on the ground and running towards Holy. Holy's eyes widened in fear and he fainted. Khan cut off the woman's head, then turned to swing his axe at the bloody banyan tree, chopping and chopping, chopping up and down with all his might. The banyan tree could not stand for long, only lasting for a stick of incense before it was already crooked and falling flat on the ground. Finished, Khan sat down on the ground, breathing heavily, leaning on the axe on the ground, glaring and shouting. Now the rich man John will have to marry Miss and Hun to me, and will not receive any benefits from this Khan guy. After saying that, he stood up, went into the room and disappeared. How Lai saw Khan's whole body was soaked with blood from Mrs. Mao's body, he just clicked his tongue. How Lai looked at Mrs. Mao's body again and sighed silently. Now that Mrs. Mao is dead, who will take care of Miss and Hung? Then we'll have to hire another maid for her. Holy looked at the fallen banyan tree and continued speaking. If it was that simple, the rich man wouldn't dare to bet. Khan would have wasted his efforts. After he finished speaking, he left, leaving only 2 old servants who were still confused and did not understand what had happened, nor what the servant Lai had said. They saw Mrs. Mao's body lying there. The 2 old servants carried the body to one side of the bush and threw it there like any other corpse, while kicking her head to the side out of sight. It would be wrong to say that their actions were inhumane. After all, if they were to find themselves in such a situation in the future, thinking back, if there was still someone to clean up their bodies like this to avoid being trampled by buffaloes and horses, it would be a blessing. Early the next day, Khan dressed up neatly and went upstairs to meet the rich man John with a smug look on his face. The rich man John had been waiting for a long time on the wooden bed, his face was absent-minded. Seeing the cheerful look of the guy entering from the door only made him more sad. Khan saw the rich man's gloomy face and thought he was sure to win. His contemptuous voice echoed from afar. The rich man is still upset about losing? I said that people without brains always do stupid things. On this occasion, the rich man gave his daughter to be his concubine, which also makes me happy. Hearing Khan speak, the rich man's gloomy face suddenly became even more gloomy, and he asked again. What did you say? What do you mean? Khan sat down at the table, picked up the teacup and took a sip. Only then did he reveal his true nature as a hypocrite in front of the rich man. At this moment, he did not look like an educated person at all, but just a scoundrel who liked to flirt with women. He said, "Oh, the rich man doesn't know? That's really strange. In Hanoi, who doesn't know that Khan Dai is a married man?" Hearing Khan say that, the rich man almost fell over in anger. This could not be blamed on him, because there were many things outside the country that he could not understand clearly. Besides, the University of Indochina was a prestigious school, people just heard about it and felt honored, there was no way to doubt the character of a person. And it was said that according to the westernization movement, there was only one husband and one wife, not 2 wives, doing so was against morality. The rich man was angry and did not think that Khan was such a person. However, Khan's complacency did not last long, as the rich man John not only did not continue to be angry but also laughed loudly throughout the house. Khan was surprised and did not understand what the rich man meant, so he asked tentatively. Is the rich man in an unstable mood because of the painful defeat? The rich man angrily turned serious and replied. Don't be so subtle as to say I'm crazy. I'm telling you, you haven't won yet. Khan heard that and was very pleased, he smiled and asked. Ah, so the rich man John intends to go back on his word. You think the box of the contract I left with you is still there, so you intend to turn your back on me? After he finished speaking, he unexpectedly pulled out from his pocket a contract exactly like the one he had signed with the rich man before. The rich man opened his eyes wide and asked. When did you get the contract? Khan replied. The rich man is really funny. If I didn't believe that you could go back on your word, how could I have given you something so important to keep? You know, the Westerners have a form of magic that can fool people's eyes. You saw me put it in the box, but actually I put it in my pocket. Having said that, he waited to see the angry face of the rich man John, so that he could have another chance to feel proud. But unexpectedly, the rich man John did not satisfy him. The rich man John stroked his beard and replied. Oh, so you almost fooled me twice. But in the end, you still lost, whether the contract was in my hand or yours. Khan replied. The rich man must have lost his mind because he was so angry that he lost his mind and was joking again. The matter is settled, the tree has been cut down by me. As for the maid I accidentally killed, I beg your forgiveness. You cannot find any other excuse to deny it forever. Rich man said. There's nothing to be sorry about, these days servants are rare. Just a handful of rice and there will be a long line of people lining up outside my house asking for that job. As for the main thing, that bet, do you really think you've cut down that banyan tree? Khan asked. Isn't that right? Don't even think about going back on your word, the servants saw it with their own eyes. And now that tree is lying in the middle of the road, the clearest evidence. The rich man angrily stroked his beard and asked again. Do you think that tree is really in the middle of the road? Hearing the rich man John ask so sarcastically, Khan could not help but stand up and drag him from the guest room to the gate, intending to have a three-way argument. Unexpectedly, when the rich man John arrived, he discovered that the banyan tree was still there. Not only that, it was even greener than yesterday. What was even more terrifying about that tree was that at some point, a human face had grown out of the trunk, exactly like Mrs. Mao. Khan's back was drenched in sweat, he stammered and asked. How can that be? This is absurd. I cut it down with my own hands last night. You can ask the servants, they saw it with their own eyes. The rich man pretended to be curious and asked. Did all the servants see it? If so, could you please call them so I can ask them? Khan hastily called the 3 servants from last night to confront them. But when all 3 stood before the rich man, John, they all insisted on turning the truth 180 degrees and said. No sir, we didn't see anything. Khan must have been dreaming and imagined it wrong. Yes, I didn't leave my room last night, so I don't know what happened. Yes sir, Mr. Khan told me not to bother him this afternoon, but he still hasn't called at midnight. After hearing this, the rich man John nodded in satisfaction. He approached Khan, patted his shoulder and said. So you thought it was real even though you were dreaming. You don't believe in ghosts, so I can only explain it like this so you can understand. Thank you for sharing your family background. Recently, I was even thinking about giving you and my daughter a chance to get to know each other. But now that things have come to this, and Hung probably doesn't have enough virtue to be your wife. Khan breathed heavily and almost vomited blood from his mouth. Finally, he forced a smile and said. Yes, I am not as cunning as a cunning man like you. But the rich man must be mistaken, because the contract has not been completed. The rich man slightly narrowed his eyes and asked. What do you mean? Khan replied. What do you mean? Well, the contract doesn't have a specific time, when do I have to cut down the banyan tree? The rich man nodded angrily. I see, okay, so I can't get anything from you. You can bend the law like that to avoid losing, not giving me the council position. What a good way, truly an educated person, with many different ways of calculating. I can't keep up. Khan shook his head. Oh no, maybe the rich man misunderstood me. I am not the type of person who goes back on my word like the rich man John, but a man of integrity. If I say I will take in Hun as my wife, as my concubine, then I will definitely do it. Khan said while emphasizing the 2 words, become a concubine, to anger the rich man John. But the rich man John not only did not get angry but immediately laughed out loud and said. Okay, but you have to hurry. Because this time I have learned a lesson, and in the next bet with someone else. There is no way I will let such loopholes appear. And Hung will be married sooner or later, or if I become a counselor, that agreement will no longer be effective. Khan's face turned gloomy and he said nothing, but that same day he left the rich man's house and never returned. The rich man John thought that from then on, his fate with this son-in-law who failed to get into the Indochina University was over. And that Khan's thoughts were only temporary, because he had lost, so he said a few words to ease his embarrassment before leaving. But unexpectedly Khan really came back, not only that, This time when he came back he brought with him a Westerner, along with a large trailer. The rich man John welcomed Con in the afternoon and was introduced by him. "This is Mr. Frederick, the Western Patrol Officer of the Consul's office. This time I personally invited him to bring a cart to destroy that banyan tree." The rich man John respectfully greeted everyone. The French Mandarin also bowed and greeted everyone. The rich man John took the opportunity to call down and urge his servants. "Bring the medicine up here and invite the Westerner quickly." Downstairs a woman's voice replied. "Yes sir, I'll be right up." Next, entering the middle of the house, was a woman who looked quite young. Her skin was a bit dark but she had a beautiful appearance. Con and the Western Mandarin could not help but swallow the saliva in their mouths when they saw this woman. He turned to look at the rich man and asked, "Who is this person that brings us tea, water, and cigarettes?" The rich man replied, "Isn't it all thanks to your good fortune? Half a month ago you beheaded Mrs. Mao, the ground is still stained with blood as proof. And Hung is all alone, her mother died early. Without a woman's hand to serve her, should she let the servant lie serve her?" Con nodded and smiled. "I see, I thought it was a cousin of Ms. and Hung." The rich man stroked his beard and slowly replied, "If Mr. Con likes my maid so much, then why don't you take her home? Then my bet with you is over, and I won't ask for anything more." Con calmly replied. The rich man really likes to joke, exchanging his maid for the young lady. No one has ever done such a losing thing before. Having said that, he pointed to the French patrol officer and continued. "This time I invited Mr. Frederick also to open your eyes once. He brought a tractor. Just tie a rope to that banyan tree, let the tractor run. It can pull out that withered banyan tree by its roots. At that time everyone will see it with their own eyes. Don't even think about denying it anymore." The rich man asked with interest, "So when do you plan to do it?" Con replied, "Now, when? The vehicles are ready outside. Monsieur Frederick is only free this morning. He is a high-ranking official, not a commoner like you and me, who can do it any time." The rich man John had heard that the Westerners had very strong pulling machines. They could even pull a large rock, let alone a tree. This time he believed it immediately, but thinking back, what if the tree reappeared after it felled? After all, this tree was haunted, and the servants who had secretly told him the other day had admitted that Con had cut down the tree. It was just that he had not seen it with his own eyes, so he did not believe it. But if it really did happen again this time, then the rich man John would not only lose 4/10 of his capital. He would also lose his chance of a career in government. After all, whether T and Hung falls into the hands of Con Dai or not is also a good thing. Con Dai has a wide network of connections, and with T and Hung's beauty, it's likely that the concubine will soon become the main wife. Westernized people marry and divorce like it's a daily meal. If they find a match, they move forward. If they find a match, they leave. They don't hold on to old-fashioned ideas. So the rich man John had long thought it through. If he really lost this time, he would just switch to another plan. After Hoi Ti and Hung became Con Dai's concubine, she had to work hard to scheme so that the rich man John could come over for his son. After thinking about everything, the rich man John nodded in agreement to let his uncle Con and his group hook up the machine to pull the banyan branches. That very morning, in front of the rich man John's house, there was a lot of noise and people. Many people from the province came to see people hooking up tractors to make stone. It's strange, this banyan tree has only been growing for about a year, but now its size is comparable to the old banyan tree at the beginning of the village. Even that old banyan tree is not as big. The whole trunk of the banyan tree was wide and shady. The leaves were a slightly reddish-yellow color, like the leaves were about to fall in autumn. Looking at this time, there was not a single green leaf to be seen, even though it was already summer, August. The thick rope was tied securely to the car hook, and one end was tied carefully to the tree trunk. Behind the rich man John, besides the 3 servants, there was also Miss T and Hung and the maid. I don't know why, but ever since the rich man John agreed to let Con Dai pull this banyan tree, he felt restless. And Miss Hung was the same, her insides were burning like fire, she couldn't stay in the room for long. She had to urge the maid to take her out to watch the tree being pulled to relieve her anxiety. As the truck started, the banyan tree tilted several times, but it still firmly held onto the ground. It was like a giant that refused to be humiliated. Frederick saw this and pressed the accelerator even harder, until the truck tires spun and emitted white smoke. Condai also looked impatient, his hands clenched tightly, hoping for success. While things were getting urgent, the powerful and wealthy people in the province gathered to see the strange event. It seemed that the refugees did not ignore such a big event. From the distant horizon, countless refugees were listlessly moving towards the banyan tree. Like hungry ghosts lurking around waiting to catch their prey. But suddenly the more the tree tilted, the more energetic the refugees seemed. Some of them stood straight with their eyes shining like stars, some of them were mumbling something as if pleading, as if begging, as if seeing light. And not only the rich man, the Western Governor Frederick and the young Condai hoped that the tree would fall so that their plans would come true. But from a certain perspective, the starving people here also hoped that the tree would fall, as a new rebirth, as a new hope. Behind Miss Hung at this hour, the maid from beginning to end did not say a word. Suddenly approaching Miss Hung, grabbed her hair and whispered in her ear. "You traitors, you exploiters, you drink the blood and eat the bones of the nation. Now is the time for you to die." Hung was startled and screamed loudly, trying to turn around. But the maid had already inserted a knife deep into her hair and ripped off her hair. At the same time, the blood banyan tree collapsed, dragging its great roots deep into the ground. The largest roots had been uprooted, leaving only the smallest roots still clinging to the ground. Soon, if they were to leave the large trunk, they would automatically dry up and die. The sound of the falling tree drowned out Hung's panicked screams, and was enough to distract the attention of Mr. Frederick, Mr. Condai, and the rich man John. Hung was being skinned by her own maid. Her beautiful face was covered in blood, her eye sockets were gouged out, her head was cut off. And the dire consequences she had to pay were the same as what her father, the rich man John, had done to the refugees before. When the rich man John and young man Condai turned around and saw the dire situation, there were also loud cries from all around from the victims. "Hunger and suffering because of the powerful landlords, rise up, compatriots!" The people cheered loudly, and the sound of gunfire rang out. Before the French soldiers could understand what was happening, the people rushed over and grabbed them by the neck and killed them. The French patrolman, Frederick, was still crouching in the truck and did not know what was happening when he was shot through the middle of his skull and died suddenly. Only now did the rich man John and the young man Condai understand what was happening. They only had time to look at each other and say one sentence. "Rebel, rebel." The rich man turned to look at the servant Lai and the two old servants and shouted. "Quickly go to the back and get the carriage for him. He must escape to Tamdao village. The people here have rebelled." But in response to the rich man's anger, there was a cold sentence from the servant Lai. "The revolution said that the landlords who exploited the people and those who sold out their country to become petty officials for the consuls must be punished." The rich man angrily shouted. "Idiot, what nonsense are you talking about? Stop talking nonsense. If you continue to talk nonsense, I will cut your salary and make you starve." But before the rich man John could finish speaking, the servant Lida raised the wooden stick in his hand and pointed it straight at the rich man John's face and shouted. "If you let him kill Mrs. Mao, will you still remember us? According to you, after you die, no one will bury you." Holy and two old monkeys rushed forward and chopped the wooden stick, hitting it straight on the head of the rich man John, just like how he had previously ordered them to beat the refugees to death. The monkeys did their work very skillfully, so in no time at all, the rich man John's head was smashed to pieces, his brains flying everywhere. A hungry dog passed by and immediately rushed in and licked all the brains off the rich man John's head, completely drinking the blood and eating the flesh of a beastly man. Not even a dog could compare. Only Mr. Khan was now standing there, watching the chaos around him. People were rising up everywhere, looking for rich people to vent their anger on. Looking back at Hung, she was now just a body covered in blood. The maid had stripped off all her skin, exposing all her muscles, looking extremely disgusting. Tian Hung crawled in front of Khan Dai, grabbed his leg and whispered in a hoarse voice because her throat was full of blood. "Mr. Khan, save me. I can be your concubine, save me." Khan panicked and shouted, kicking Tian Hung straight on the head and saying, "No, go away, you're not worthy." Then he went crazy. The scene around him seemed like hell. Just yesterday was a life of abundance and prosperity, but today was a tragedy. He turned his head and saw that the blood banyan tree he had cut down was not a tree at all. Instead, it was slowly turning into human bones. The branches, leaves, tips, and roots were all made of human bones. Even the hole in the ground created by the uprooted roots was now filled with a pool of fresh blood. From afar, suddenly a woman with a dry, bony appearance appeared and approached the hole. Below, a child's cry could be heard, hoarse as if it was hungry. Khan had just finished seeing that scene when suddenly another scream from behind startled him. It was Holi's scream. He also screamed out loud in fear. And right after that, he also hit himself on the head with a wooden stick, causing his brains to splatter. He died the same way as many others he had killed, beaten to death by the knotted wooden stick. He died because he found out that the woman was unexpectedly his childhood friend, whom he had cruelly killed before. That woman was already dead. Why did she appear again? Maybe when the woman looked down at her belly, there was a reason. If that day, Marquis Lai had decided to do something different, would this not have happened? One time to save the hungry, 1,000 times to save the hungry. If just one moment of kindness, could it change a person's fate? If the whole society thought like that, would there still be the scene of drinking the blood and eating the bones of their own people? No one knows. Only to see the woman lifting the child out of the bottom hole. The child was already the size of a 6-year-old child. The woman stared at the child and asked, "Are you hungry? Should we go beg in another country? Mom has another friend, Uncle Lai." Khan stood rooted to the spot, understanding everything, and at that moment he knew no more. He only felt a throbbing pain in his head, his consciousness blurred, and then disappeared completely. He was dead. As for the banyan tree, it is the image of the blood-sucking colonialists who eat bones. When the banyan tree is knocked down, the blood-sucking tyranny must collapse. The woman is the breath of the times. The times always appear in their own way, informing us in advance of the results from the choices we have made. The choice of fate, good or bad, is up to us.